This is going to be exciting. Boys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to the OE4 action. We've got quite the intriguing matchup here. It was recommended, actually, by one of the players. We've got Matisse in the yellow playing as the Zhuji's Legacy in a one-on-one showdown with Team Liquid's very own Dumu playing as the Ayubids. Dude, I actually love that monument. That's such a cool one. Now, this is an interesting one, actually. I don't think I've seen much of Ayyubid versus Zhuji, and I have been guaranteed that this does go fairly deep into the game. So this, I've seen a few matchups between Ayyubid and Zhuji that end in the mid-game max or the early game, but apparently this one actually gets us into a full-blown imp engagement, is what I've been told. So it should be an exciting one. We are going to be playing on Dry Arabian. Oh my god, he got it. He got it, and I think he got the stone. That right there might be a 98 food, 30 stone meditation garden. This is, honestly, this is like liquid gold. Whenever you find the double food, funnily enough, in meditation garden, it's actually the best option. You'd think that meditation garden would be best dropped near a lot of gold and stone, but I don't think so. I think the edge of what it gives you is the food in the early game, because food really is the driving force between most builds in early and mid, right? Whether you're looking for fast feudal, fast castle, whether you're looking for TC boom, where you'll need to spend extra food on additional villages, whether you're looking to produce units, which will require food, and also when you're looking at dodge needing to transition farms too early, once again, having extra food helps with all of those things. So that's why we've seen a lot of meditation gardens prioritized around food. It's almost always been berries. It's very rare to see someone not take berries at the opening, and I expect we're going to be seeing that here. On the other side of the Ayyubids, let's check out the spawn. Pretty decent one for defensive play, actually. A very wallable terrain here with the trip wood line set up in a turtle shell. Both players got similar. I'd say Dumu's looks a little bit more easily wallable, maybe. But on top of that, he has the double stone behind, which is glorious if you want to play more of a standard classic Abbasid style, as opposed to the new generation Ayyubids that are all about tempo control. I imagine he's going to want to lean to the tempo control, though, especially considering he's up against a defensive Civ, and that would definitely suggest he is going to. Opens with the military wing, so we are going to be seeing reinforcement as an opener for Dumu on the Ayyubids. Meanwhile, that meditation garden, he got it, didn't he? We called it. Dude, he actually got it perfect. So that right there is going to be a 96, I think I said 98 before, 96 food meditation garden, 30 stone, and 2 wood per minute. Not bad. That's going to allow him to do a lot of things in the early game as well, which are going to be crucial here. Considering the Ayyubids are trying to play tempo control and the aggro party, I'm going to hit 2 times speed as we look to move towards like the 5-6 minute mark where things will happen. What that means is by having that extra food, he's able to kind of mirror blow for blow the opening of the Ayyubids here with the military wing. So really frustrating situation for Dumu. I'm sure he's aware that it was going to happen. In fact, the amount of times I've watched Dumu on this map was usually get the double berry spawn, or at least find the double berry spawn. It almost feels like karma is due that it comes back to haunt him here. We'll have to see how he addresses it. Xiang and Tao also on the way from Matisse, so this is immediately going to unlock the Song Dynasty. This doesn't mean it's an all-in greed play, though. He does have Flexi. The movement on the stone, however, definitely confirms it. We've got 7 villagers over here. We've got the IO overseeing them. Notice that Matisse, he does this all the time, by the way. Only 1 IO. I don't think I've seen a single game where he goes for a second Imperial Official yet as the Zhuji's Legacy on opening. And I think this right now is the locked-in meta. The extra IOs only tend to come in when you have extra TCs. And folks, he's going to have it fast. Song Dynasty is about to unlock, which means he gets a fat discount. 160 with less to build his TCs. That is an insane saving that puts it on par with the OG TCs before the nerfs came in. And that TC is now going to be dropped on the wood line, so very hard location now for the Camel Rider to find his way in. Remember, these Camel Raiders, when they go into range form, they only have 4.5 tower range, so very easy to accidentally get too close. In fact, he's lucky Matisse wasn't quick on the reaction there. Otherwise, that Camel might have just instantly died. Like, that arrow fire, so what would it be? It would be 8 damage times 7, which would give him 42. So he would have brought that unit down to, with 2 flurries probably coming out, he would have brought down to 84. So they would have been on 36 health. At which point this Desert Raider wouldn't do anything. So, good thing he keeps it alive. Allows him to now park himself in the Meditation Garden, which shrinks the income a little bit. Looks like Matisse is not going to be going ultra greedy here. Only a 2 TC build. I think part of the logic behind this, by the way, is because he's up against the camels. If he tries to go for a 3rd TC now, he'd get punished, right? Instead, he can try to get some units out, push them away, and then he has the flexi to either go for additional greed or play Assassin's Creed. All's going up the flanks. In what we're looking at? We are looking at advancement as expected. Dumu has gone for the, I say bog standard Ayubids right now, right? Well, I say bog standard. There's two options. You either go growth into advancement, or you go military wing reinforcement into advancement. I think those are building up about 80% of the current games happening, if not more, when it comes to Ayyubid play. There have been a few flexes we've seen Master Smiths in competitive. We've occasionally seen logistics for the Castle Age choice. Trade Wing Bazaar has fallen off the side of the cliff, though. That just doesn't happen anymore. An industry, honestly, never, ever comes into play. Bar, I'd say if your Eco Wing is the last thing you've got, and you've already got Imp, and you're in a 2-hour game, and you're completely out of wood, that is the one time you will ever see Eco Wing industry. But outside that, never seems to be the play. It's interesting as well, actually, because in the early days, before the expansion release, there was a lot of theory crafting that one of the good builds for the Ayyubids would actually be to go Eco-Wing Industry for feudal, so you had the wood, to build outposts to guard your gold while you rushed towards Castle Age, but just didn't play out that way in the end. Another build was actually involving the idea of a fast TC, but once again, just wasn't of interest. Dimino up in Castle Age and quickly on his way towards those relics. Mosque has been built. Dervishes are coming out soon. Meanwhile, Matisse hasn't teched up yet. Now, Matisse is a very big enjoyer of Shaolin Monastery. I think a lot of people are quickly becoming an enjoyer of it, but I don't know if this is per se going to be the game for it because of his timing. If he tries to rush out, there's always a risk your opponent has lances, so wouldn't be surprised if instead we just see a Mount Lu Academy. Considering that he's walled himself in, he's playing 2 TC, it does just seem like he's going to play for that late timing. Probably just have to accept that the Ayyubids get to have the gold trickle. He's still got a Blood Desert Raider in as well, this whole time. Credit to Dimu as well. Didn't take an ounce of damage on it, right? That TC that should have scratched him didn't even get a chance. And he keeps the wall open over here. So keeping it on that detail, right? Like he blocked the ability to construct. Matisse had to back away entirely. That does mean that Dimu not only can get the Desert Raiders in, but there's a risk that he could get the Camels in. And it looks like actually Matisse is going to try to contest this. Shaolin Monastery on the way. That's a very dangerous play, though. Like, in this type of game, when you know you're going to be up against either Lancers or Dervishes, to go for this blind without any Spearmen at all to support is very risky. And, you know, we can see that it's probably not going to be the most optimal play because of the fact he's up against Double Dervish. I want you guys to think about this from Matisse's vision. How limited he is, right? He's got one scout always being chased around, unable to see anything. From his perspective, this could not only just be Dervishes, this could be the Camel Lancers to boot. So instead, once the tech-up's complete, a million for the archery ranges, interestingly enough. Not a bad idea here, right? If you're playing behind walls, you actually want to scale crossbows in case your opponent went Ghulams. If you're sticking on Desert Raiders, you beat them easily with crossbows. And if you've gone for Camel Lancers, you also beat him. So, funnily enough, that one unit counters everything in this game. I think he actually still hasn't sniffed this out. Got to give a lot of credit for moving the placement in the mosque. Like, most players would place the mosque a little bit closer. He did in the end. Okay, so he built a second mosque. So it did get scouted. Matisse now knows what he's up against. The problem is these Shaolin monks, I don't know if they're going to be fast enough to do anything about it. He can, of course, take the safe relic right in the back of his base, but instead, Dimu yoinked it away. You smooth criminal. And just like that, this Shaolin Monastery has essentially no value in this game. I mean, you could argue that he could pump Shaolins if he wanted to, but really, who wants to pump Shaolins? Maybe later in the game when you can get Pagoda and you have infinite food and you just pump them non-stop, I can see that, but at this stage, just feels like it's a wasted landmark. And imagine if you had Mount Lu Academy as well, you know, the scaling into IOs, the efficiency you could have there would have been a lot better. Like already, this one taxman running around would have been worthwhile to have actually had the reform that moves you faster, just to be able to shift back and forth between your primaries, but unable to find a way to that. But we'll find a way towards the granaries. A very easy transition for the Juji. Can't think of many civs in the game that has an easier farm transition, right? Like English is probably the primary. Outside that, I feel like everyone has a harsher time trying to switch into these things. Dimu has gone for the second TC. We could even be looking at free TC if he wants to go for a very aggressive timing here. He might be a little bit paranoid about what Matisse is doing, though, right? Behind those walls where you can't peer in too deep because it's a very condensed base. For all you know, you could be building up a big force of palace guards. So, despite that, Dimu nods his head, says, no, definitely eco. Third TC. No walls going up at all, by the way. But that's the smart read on this comp that allows them to do this. By going Camel Lancers and Camel Raiders, you have an ability to mirror moves from your opponent. You also have an ability to usually trade better, right? If they go for a dive, you can dive faster. Crossbows do at least discover early, so Matisse should be rushing that wall up. He's a little bit distracted by the wolf, but should get it up in time here. Looks like instead Dimu might be trying... No, that was Matisse, actually. He tried to go for the Sacred Site here, realizing that there were no relics. So already in this game, because of the power of the Dervishes and how quickly they move, Dimu already has all 5 relics and now has 3 TCs to start closing the gap on Matisse's 2. This is a tough position that Matisse has carved himself out here. Not much map to play with, not much breathing room. I'm wondering how the hell he is going to get out of this hole. I mean, if you look at these civs and the late game potential, I think even there you can argue that the Ayyubids, they have some potency, but some areas they can fall off in, I think, is around the Ming Dynasty. If that ever comes into the picture, if there's ever enough gold for that, that extra 15% damage might be the game breaker. The way that Dimu can keep that in check if we do eventually move into Imperial Age will be Atabegs, though. Atabegs is an element of Ayyubid play that still hasn't been fully explored. A lot of the permutations of this Civ right now tend to erupt or implode in Castle Age. Usually late Castle Age, right, where you've just got the mass together and you've either won the game or it's already over. Because of the aggressive spikings, right? They tend to come in very strong at the beginning of Castle Age or fizzle out later in. But as we reach deeper and deeper into Imperial games and we see it more frequently out the Ayyubids, I think we are going to see a tendency towards Atabegs as the final choice, just because those 7 buildings giving you units with 20% more health are bonkers. And I think the thing that makes them absolutely bonkers is the fact that, unlike the Abbasids that only have the option to do that for their infantry with the boot camp with 15%, this will allow you to place Atabegs in any military building. Now, one thing I haven't seen tested, by the way, is whether that will allow navies. I think you can place them in docks. If that's the case, we might actually see Ayyubids rise as a crazy, unexpected late-game power on water maps like Archipelago and Warring Islands. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll have to see if that ever makes it back into competitive. Camel Lance, in the meantime, just running circles, getting shot in the face as they do so. In fact, they're getting cut off by reinforcements here. So Dimu has to just try and strike as he goes, but he can't hang around, so not the best of exchanges. Let's open up the blood-spilling in Castle Age for Ben. But Ben behind this has secured a lot, right? He took 3 Sacred Sites, has generated a lot of gold. We mentioned he already has those relics. And the eco lead has already closed. 62 to 66 now. And it looks like Matisse is starting to play out more aggressively. I mean, the military numbers are astonishingly different at this stage. 17 compared to the 52. But that's because Dimu did go for a very expensive army, right? Going into Lancers, going to the Raiders. In fact, when you look at the army values and think about the number of units they have, you wouldn't believe the difference is only about 1,000. That's just how pricey the Lancers are on one side and how little the Spears cost on the other, though. Matisse is going to chase the villagers home a little. A scary fight right now for Dimu to take, actually. He's trying to scale into the archers, but still outmassed by the crossbow, so it would be a very terrible fight to take. Instead, doing a good job of pulling those villagers to the left side to try and bait his opponent further away. So Matisse is not going to give chase, so instead we'll be able to condense his food income over there. Buying more time for this archer count to go up, and Matisse still can't find a target. I mean, this is kind of tricky, right? Theoretically, this is wave 1, but realistically behind this, I think maybe Matisse is feeling a bit capped. He's only getting into the 2nd granary now. He hasn't got the full-fledged free granary with 30 farms. He's not ready to just unlimited push units yet. But he's going to be pushed to the max here. Dive in from the Camel Lancers, baits the Spearmen to hang around. And look at the numbers just shrinking there on the front side. Only 6 remain in the formation. Archers plus the Camels can chase this down. Matisse, he did pull more Spearmen back ahead of this. Even when you reform these lines, though, this is not a fight you get out of unbruised. Lancers now getting ready for a wider wrap. I think they know that this has kind of just been a bait. There must be something happening behind this from Matisse. And there's 2 options. Either he ran out of gasoline in the corner, or he was trying to play for his Imperial Age. Either way, Dimu's doing a good job of maintaining momentum in that mid-map, now pushing out again to ensure either one of those 2 can be punished. And also remember, even these Camel Raiders, they do have that ranged form, right? They hit for a lofty 10 damage at this stage. I say it's lofty, but it is when the archers are down at a mere 8, so definitely adds up for him. Nestabees does get found out. I think this is looking like Matisse might just be forced to fight here, so starts to stand its ground a little bit. Camel count is going down slightly, but there's still enough left on the front side of this to truly threaten him. Looks like he will make it back to base. Now, this is the point where Dumu should just kind of reset and be like, okay, map control is still mine. Instead, he decides to hang around. Archers are getting a decent fight here, but the Palace Guard now coming out is where it gets a little bit scary. Crossbows barely being added in by Dumu. Only 2 of them involved in this fight. So eventually, this will be a reset. Matisse shouldn't be giving over too much ground, doing a great job of keeping the Lancer off the gold in the meantime because Matisse was running out of gold here. So strikes out at the perfect time. And I know he's got that golden reserve, but realistically, Matisse doesn't want to have to resort to that. This is a point in the game where he can contest, so he should be contesting out into the map. If he stayed at home, there's a risk he runs out of gold entirely, and Dumu just eclipses him. It's especially more kind of damning and pressuring for Matisse to have to come out when you remember that this is a 5-relic game for Dumu. It means long-term, gold will always be in the favor of Dumu. I love what we got coming in next. I was kind of surprised that maybe didn't come in a bit earlier, but it seems Dumu just didn't have the eco for it. Son's Mamelukes is an incredible tech here. When he's chasing down all those spearmen with those archers, it actually would have been a big deal breaker to just smash the formation, but he's going to have it now. For those wondering what it does, it's a pretty cool tech for the Ayyubids. It gives you 25% increased damage and 20% increased movement speed on your unit for, I believe it's 10 seconds after they kill. It might actually been 20. That's actually especially a really big deal now that he's switching into crossbows. Crossbows that are more likely to yield the final killing blow. Because remember, the only unit that gets that buff is the one that gets the kill. Otherwise, this tech would be fully broken. I especially like Mameluke's bravery the later the game goes. I find it's incredibly effective when you start transitioning into hand cannoneers. Just because it's another unit that just has very high kill damage, right? So most likely those hand cannoneers are going to get the kill, and as a result get the buff. In some matchups, there's also this interesting staggering effect that you then get, because if your opponent keeps running away, it means one hand cannoneer is faster than the other, the buff ones, and they're more likely to get that first shot, and then as you're trading, a second line of hand cannoneers that aren't buffed come in and get the final blow. It's situational, it's theoretical, but it does hold up. Like typically, you know, when armies are fresh and clashing, you get those first few kills. If you're then leading the charge with the high HP one, the high movement speed ones, it's like they'll get the final hit. Dumu being a cheeky get here. Looks like the walls were a little bit tight by Matisse. He's going to have to vacate the farms. There is a burn through underway. Now, these are camel lancers, folks, so if they get in, there's going to be a lot of murder. Village is being pulled. Matisse realizes he may have been a bit too late here. Fails to get the repair in. And straight away, the camels munch down. Dumu just trying to split these up. He doesn't want to give the max value to the spears because they've already rinsed the polearms with blood. Camel count down to 6. Looks like Dumu can't hang around too long. A little bit of micro here to snipe a villager here or there. But he knows this is not going to be the dent that kills Matisse. It's just about keeping him down while Dumu tries to make a play for the sacred sites. And looks like we are going to get a contest over here from Matisse. However, he does look a little bit outnumbered. Especially with the Mamluke's bravery kicking in on a few of these units. I say that, actually. I think... Wait, were the crossbows on the front of that, or did he just not have any? He may not have had any, so Palace Guard are going to sweep through that. So Sacred Site is going to be decapped. Good maneuverings by Matisse. On both flanks, in fact. It seems like right now, Dumu may have overestimated his power, his lead here. His army is looking pretty pathetic. 37 to 86, despite the stronger economy. So Matisse just flaunting the power of the Juji right now. Well, you can see economically, Dumu should be ahead. I think it's these trades that are hurting him, right? He's been trying to take eco, but trading military instead. And this is not cheap military, folks. These camel lancers costing a lofty 240, 110 of which is going to be gold. Now, after that reset, Matisse moves forward. Has got Nesta Beast to play with. Palace Guard numbers are counting up. It looks like Dumu was in the middle of transition into Gulums, by the looks of it. Instead switching over to Spears, as he does see the Horseman now hitting the field. Interesting choice, actually. It's like, Spears are cheaper, but in some ways it would be nice if you could have some Desert Raiders here, right? Desert Raiders, the Mirror Horsemen, are just brilliant because of their ability to reduce the damage, as well as take them down. But I'm seeing a lack of camels. I think Dumu's going to have to at least keep the Dervishes in the mixer to reduce the damage to that calf. Nestabee's now hitting on the backside. Mass Heal's going to come out from Dumu. Good use of it to try and hold, but he realizes quickly he's just outgunned and outmanned here. Dervishes are going to go down as he chooses to retreat. Trying to slow things down as he gets reinforcements in. Instead, it's just going to be more losses. Dumu now being tripled up in military value. Military count. Now, horsemen are starting to seep in, and this is becoming a little bit of a problem for Dumu. Dumu has a lot of gold to work with, but because of this fight, his food is rather strained. It looks like he was in the middle of the farm transition, so a great read by Matisse. Remember, Matisse didn't have that issue. The Jushi are fantastic for this. I say fantastic, I really mean broken. Their ability to get into the farm so much easier than almost every other Civ in the game. Arguably better than any other Civ in the game. You consider they've got the gathering rate from the Golden Age. Golden Age. The gathering rate extra drop-off from the Imperial Official in conjunction with that 40% discount. It just makes it hard to compete for any Civ, even Civs that get the farms for cheap, like the English. These checkpoints are starting to look a bit desperate. Matisse keeps on pushing. Dumu trying to go for a keep here, just consolidate his position. But the charge comes in for the crossbows. Nesta B's getting the flurry out as well. Castle is going to go up, but all of a sudden, Dumu losing so much for it, he just lost the eco lead. He'll at least stabilize. That's the good news for Ben fans. He's still in this game for the time being, but if you cannot find additional defenses or walls, he's not going to be in this for long. You see the horsemen just diving even deeper, right? Like now forcing the villagers to peasant rebel here. And remember, these are veteran horsemen, so they can actually take that fight quite efficiently. The idle time alone is killing Dumu's economy at this stage. We're seeing over 2k food income from Matisse, only 1,400 for Dumu. It's a very big difference in this game. And the more worrisome detail is because of this pivot in map control. Matisse, in a game where he might have had to worry about gold, now has access to the fat stacks on both sides. And Dumu, heavily limited by comparison, even with 5 relics, considering the type of units he wants to build, like the Ghulams, the Camels, the Crossbows. It's a good thing he's got 5k in reserve. But he needs to find a way to spend it. I mean, have we got a marketplace here is what I'm wondering. Unless I'm blind, I don't think we have a marketplace. Oh, the horsemen, they just got led over to the other pocket eco, so he now knows about that. Unfortunately, he also has this auto gathering over on the other stone, which is pretty inefficient for him. But the more important detail here, I think, looking at this top down, is that he hasn't found room for a marketplace. And because of that, and I'm going to double check it just to be safe. Yeah, no marketplace and 5,000 gold. Now, the interesting thing about Dumu is he actually usually likes to float a lot of gold because it gives you a bit more flexibility down the line in desperate moments, or if you do get to Imperial Age, he has all the elite techs. But in this game, it truly does just feel like dead weight economy. While your base is being burnt down as well. And not just that, Matisse now reaching up into the Imperial Age in a world where Dumu just can't even mirror it. This game looks close to done, folks. Temple of the Sun is also going to make this so much harder for Dumu to now fight. The infantry haste means he can always gap close. A tricky predicament. Dumu, even that gold we talked that he had, isn't going to have it much longer. It's going to be a burn down on the mosque here. And a Shaolin monk has already been prepped, so Matisse knows what he can take. Oy, oy, oy. Sacred Site's already being taken. Long walls being built as well. And what a tough game, man. This is kind of crazy. The way that Matisse was able to turn this around. I mean, Dumu, with such great map control, I wonder if the issue was not transitioning into cavalry sooner. Probably felt that he needed to have the cav so that he didn't have to rush walls up on his flanks. But because of that, Matisse eventually is able to just more cost-efficiently hold you back, right? If you're going mass camel lancers, your opponent just builds spears. You add in these archers, he builds crossbows, but then because you spent so much on camel lancers, the difference maker, it still favors Matisse there. And I think the cherry on top is the Nesta Bs into these eventual infantry fights you know you're going to be stuck in. Nesta Bs that Dumu at least now has the counter to with the Strings. Looks like he's going to be able to recover these relics and move them back to the back of the base. But still, a very tough game for Dumu to now break out in. Those walls going up, it's not going to hold him back, but what it does is it gives Matisse a heads up on where his opponent is. And you have to remember, we are now up in Imperial Age with the Divine Haste usually available when it's needed. And that means that he can toggle and shift these Palace Guard to block you out. Instead, though, we have actually got it on the Divine Defense because we are going to be getting the extra range for the Grenadiers. They're up to 4 tower range. You can see them shifting across now. Love that little detail. You see that Matisse, he switched over to the healing so that any units that were harmed, were hurt, can fill up their HP bars. And there is a lot of injured units here. So just a smart little read. That's something I'm expecting to see more and more of out of GG players. This ability to toggle is insane. Like, you should have a hotkey for this landmark on its own. Just switching back and forth, usually between either Divine Vitality and then one of the three. Because you're either running Mass Grenadiers, Mass Cavalry, or Mass Infantry. So massive cavalry and infantry are shifting across the west side here. Only got 2 Grenadiers here, as well as the 2 Nesta Bees, but looks like he's going to force him away. Dimmu was trying to play wide for the gold, but doesn't manage to get the full value. Only 1,000 taken out of that. Dimmu, by the way, still not ready to age up yet. Hasn't got the food yet. Feels like he needs to reach 200. Now that he is here, we should be seeing a move towards Imp. The issue, however, is it takes 2 minutes now to get there. And there's no cheat sheet, there's no work around that. Advancement was used for Castle Age by Dimmu, so his only option really is to wait. I'm just looking at the map, and I'm getting a little bit worried for Dimmu at this position, right? Like, I mean, gold-wise, he still has, what is this, 1.3k here. He's got 1.1k here, so 2.4. And he has got 3.2 in reserve. He has got the 5 relics, but my feeling is that this is going to start moving towards gunpowder units. There's only so much that can be done for you there. I mean, he's already had to spend 1,200 on getting the gold. So it's a very good idea that he went for the Attabeg. The Attabeg is at least going to allow him to be efficient with these hand cannoneers that I'm almost certain he's going to need. So remember, it's going to give them an extra 20% health, which will put them up at a pretty healthy 150. Actually, just over. Meantime, castles have been taken out. Map has fully retracted for Dimmu. Into the corner he goes. And eco-wise, of course, being behind like this against the GG, and I imagine he knows he's behind on economy because of all the losses. Doesn't feel like a good position to be in. Like, if you have to go this late into the game from behind, you probably feel better being the Abbasids because they have a more beneficial golden age, right? The gathering rate doesn't just stall at 10%. Actually, it starts at 15 and goes up to 20. On top of that, you do at least get the production speed here, but the whole idea of camel units with 75 structures, 1, he hasn't got it. 2, not sure you really want to be scaling camels here, so you start to feel like you're kind of stuck with a slightly worse Abbasids in terms of economy and in terms of military, really. I mean, one upside he'll have, like I said, is the extra 5% on his units compared to Abbasid play. The question really still remains whether he's going to have the economy behind it to fuel the war machine. Proxy base now coming in from Matisse. As he starts to constrict the map further. Stone walls are going up, or were going up from Dimmu, just to try and funnel this fight. Not sure if that's going to help him that much, though. A dive comes in. Matisse now knows the upgrade is underway, so he knows the House of Wisdom is soon to be teched up, and instead of diving past it, he starts to siege it, trying to twist Dimmu's arm into a fight. This is a pretty cool read, actually. Elite Army tactics are on the way soon, so even this tech up, Dimmu won't be able to fight straight away. House of Wisdom already down to 8.2k HP. Not going to last much longer than this, actually. It's going to force the fight. Dimmu has to defend it. Moves forward. Tech up now complete. A good idea by Matisse. He didn't know how long that had left on the tech up. Not able to stop it indefinitely, but now the Nesta Bees should be able to get some flurries out here. Attabegs have spawned, and they've spawned on the wrong side. Dimmu luckily gets most of them away, but 2 Attabegs will go down. And it looks like the front lines have died on both sides, but that should benefit Dimmu. Push this back a little bit. The problem right now, he's having to waste a lot of wood repairing onto that House of Wisdom. On top of that, losing 2 of the 7 Attabegs. Not a good look. Makes you a lot weaker at this stage. Now, I haven't seen this, but someone was saying that there's a way that you can spawn more Attabegs. I don't know if that's true. I haven't seen... Ah, there it is. There you go. So you can build additional ones. 100 food and 100 gold each. Still quite pricey for a guy who just dried up all his gold. No, really, guys. Look at what he's doing on the front line right now. The Grenadiers! Oh, that hurt. That hurt a lot. Grennies moving in for more. And wave after wave coming. Matisse, if these Nesta Bees let out a flurry like that, if they get one more shot out, that's going to be his eco going down by 20. Dimmu, he's living with his heart on his sleeve right now, begging for mercy. Matisse looking relentless, now spamming Mass Horseman. Still has 15 grenadiers to play with. That's enough to massacre a clumped up force, whether it be of villagers or military. And remember the sacred sites, folks, they're still ticking down. 6 minutes to go. Matisse waiting for the biology, and then I imagine he'll make his move in a game where Dumu is behind on blacksmith techs. He hasn't vetted the whole army up, right? Like, he's got this spearman, he's got the crossbows, but as we see there, elite army tactics is now only on the way. This could be an ugly fight. Keep going up. Shots coming out from the keep, but that's not going to do enough damage. The frontline clash looking okay for Dumu, but it has to. He has nowhere to run behind this. Grenadiers just trying to even it up. The time being a really good fight coming out from Dumu. Matisse, however, look at the speed of the reboom. Food and wood to work with for days, and he wants to go mass horseman. This dive deeper is getting a bit worrisome now. I think it was a really good fight for a moment there, but Dumu, the thing he's got to respect here is this grenadier count. Whenever this turns into a full A-click send, his units clump up, and when that happens, the grenadiers start to win out again. So will calm himself down. He does reset. He exploits the little gold he's got. I really mean the little, folks. 1,600 income a minute is now a lie. That was because he was tapping it. But the veins have been tapped drier than a vampire looking for dinner. He has about 450 gold now a minute. Horseman now wrapping as well. This is where the game gets really frustrating because you just can't defend these flanks anymore. Wouldn't even mind seeing the Divine Charge for the extra 20% damage on Horseman just to clean up the farms quicker. Might feel like he wants to hold on to the range for the Grenadiers. By the way, really want to praise Matisse for consistently doing this. I've seen a lot of players playing Zhu Ji where they have to reset, move away. They don't toggle Divine Vitality. This is something that's going to take some time to get used to. And it's no surprise to me, the guy with more games than anyone else on Zhu Ji's legacy is the one to always remember it. I'm sure Dumu is remembering that timer. 4 minutes. Sacred Site needs to be decapped soon. Castle on the side, too wide to wrap for. Castle in the center, might take a while to get through. He's got one bombard to his name. And if he loses that, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be a desperation dive onto that Sacred Site. One where Matisse has set up a wonderful base in the center. He's got villagers nearby. He has plenty of things he could pull to block it. Looks like Dumu can't wait. Has to start moving now. Castle's almost gone already. Manjanique's hitting into the infrastructure. Horseman wrapping wide. The castle looks like it's going to be going down. Horseman now getting in on the backside of this. Onto the siege. Manjanique's shots coming out, but it's worthless damage. A patient wrap by Matisse to put this game in a bow tie and end it. No way back for Dumu, losing the siege. Villagers panicking with repair. He has the stone to keep it going, but it counts for nothing now. The Grenadiers are going to sweep through this mass, and this game is going to come to a close. An ambitious attempt to try and recover from behind, but credit to Matisse all the way along. He had a game plan. He didn't overexert himself. He patiently waited for his timing in a matchup where Ayyubids usually set the tempo and tried to force you out earlier. He didn't feel that force. He didn't feel that pressure. And instead, he now stands on the verge of victory. Dumu with no clear way of preventing it. Really cool to see Matisse, actually. The crazy part is with that Shaolin Monastery play that really didn't hit. He somehow makes it look like it's an irrelevant detail in this game. After spending 1,800 resources, he realizes a tech up is still a tech up and finds a way to make that castle age work. You know, goes back to whether Dumu maybe had control but needed a unit transition sooner, but I see this a different way. I see this more praise for Matisse, showing off the power of the Zhu Ji in that early late game, right? Before we get really grinded down, there's not much left on the map. He didn't even allow that phase to arrive before he was ready. By the time it does, map's been carved up like a turkey, and he comes out with 2/3 of it. Dumu barely comes out of his corner. 9 rams really is just the plea to get through now, isn't it? It's tough as well because this ranged unit, these Grenadiers, actually destroy rams. They do siege damage, so it's one of those annoying things where if this was hand cannoneers, these rams would still delete everything. But against Grenadiers, Your issue if you're Dumu here is you have to dive with them or you lose everything. I mean, just look at the damage there. It's no joke, folks. Castle now being repaired. I think Matisse knows this is the attempt of a dying man. People wonder why not send 3 rams left or right? It's too wide. That's the issue. You have to think about it this way. On a map, how far does Dumu have to go versus Matisse? For Dumu, he has to curve around. For Matisse, it's a straight walk. It's what we call defender's advantage. It's why when you defend your base and there's knights coming in and they're trying to circle your base, your spearmen are already able to be in position, right? So it's just a shorter distance. Right now, Matisse has the full defender's advantage. Last of the rams go down before he can even break the keep. We've got 40 seconds left of the clock, and Matisse's army, it's been reduced to rubble, really. He's trying to break out on the right side. It's a smart idea, but with a castle here as well, I think it's a little bit too late for that. If you guys have not followed Matisse, by the way, he did host us earlier today. You can catch him streaming, usually daily, actually. So if you want to get the first-person perspective of the Zhu Xis and win our rounds, go for that there. And of course, Dumu, we know he streams a lot. This will be one loss in a long line of victories, but a very big confidence booster, I think, for Matisse, who, when you play one Civ and everyone knows you play it, in theory, you shouldn't really be on a positive win rate. Now, people are going to argue that's because Zhu Xi's broken. I do think they're a bit overtuned. But still, a big chunk of it is Matisse being a talented fellow. We always call him the OG HRE Grandmaster. And now I think it's fair to say he's earned the title, the OG Zhu Xi Legacy Master. Actually, let's just call him the Zhu Xi Emperor.